Welcome back! My name is Diana Gregg, and this video is part 4 of Seeing Angel Numbers, what it really means. If you haven't seen parts 1, 2, or 3 of this series, please go back and watch those, as this one is building upon those. In parts 1 through 3 of this series, we discussed seeing the numbers, the true meaning that goes way beyond looking up angel number meanings. We discussed universal consciousness and your personal invitation to partner with the universe. We also discussed how seeing the numbers begins to expand your awareness, often activating your intuitive and spiritual gifts. And we discussed how you can begin working with the numbers to create a stronger conscious connection to the universe. In this video, I will be discussing how seeing the angel numbers, consciousness, and this invitation ties into your ability to create your reality, and how it all stems from a major movement happening on the planet right now, namely the Great Awakening. I will share with you some real-life examples from my own life that illustrate what you can expect after you begin working with the angel numbers and partnering with the universe. It all starts out very subtle, so how will you even know it's happening? I will explain what that will look like. Even though it starts out small at first, it then becomes increasingly magical, the many ways the universe will be interacting with you. So let's get started. The universe is creative and expansive like your consciousness, and it wants to create reality with you. In fact, your consciousness and universal consciousness is one consciousness. It is not separate from you at all, but it allows you the experience of individuality and free will by allowing you to experience yourself as being separate. The universe, or God, or source, whatever your name is for it, is of little importance. It is all the same thing. The different names differ because the various ways human beings interpret it. When I discuss the universe or God or source, for the time being, I am not bringing up any religion because as intertwined as God and religion may seem, the overlay of religion only confuses matters until a deeper understanding of each is attained. Using the term universe is universal and neutral, and therefore allows me to include all people of different faiths, philosophies, and backgrounds into this discussion. But I will often use the word God to refer to the source of all existence. Like a loving parent, the universe allows you the space to find out who you are, what you stand for, and what you wish to create, and therefore what you will experience, individually as well as collectively with the human race. As very young children, we initially are very dependent on our parents, guardians, or caregivers to support us. But as we get a little older, we push for our independence. We want to experience the world more independently without our parents constantly telling us what everything is, how to think, how to behave, and ultimately how to live our lives. This is where the feelings of being separate can enhance our feelings and our experience of individuality. Some of us take this a little further and become atheists, which is quite simply a choice to feel separation or isolation from a higher power. God takes no offense to this stance at all, as it too is an expression of the whole. All of us together, with all of our differing points of view and experiences, amount to the sum total of all that is, all that God has created. A very large part as to why you exist as a person today is to experience. But what has been kept a secret from you is that you are also here to create. What is it that brings life to your body? How is it that you have a mind of your own? That life force energy that brings life to your body and gives you your individual mind or consciousness is an extension of God's energy, source energy, also referred to as universal consciousness. And because it is an extension of God's energy and makes up your individual consciousness, it is your birthright to create. The invitation you received is the universe lovingly calling back its children to individually and collectively create on a conscious level, meaning deliberately creating what you want versus being a victim of what you are creating. Look at the world around us right now. Look at what we've all been creating. Do you like what you see? So many people are not liking what we've created, but feel powerless to change it. The good news is prayers do not go unanswered. People all over the globe have been wishing, praying, and hoping for a solution without knowing what they can possibly do about it. And that's why you are seeing the angel numbers. And that is why you've been given an invitation. This is the Great Awakening. God's children all over the globe who are receptive to the call are waking up to their fullest potential and becoming conscious creators. With most of us being asleep to our power, asleep to the understanding of how we create our reality, we have been unconsciously creating what resembles more of a nightmare than a dream come true. And because we are allowed free will, you get to choose whether or not you're going to wake up and get into the driver's seat and take reality into the direction you want to move into, or you can stay asleep. You can stay in bed and let your consciousness, thoughts, feelings, and emotions run amok and randomly create what they will, keeping you in a place of reacting instead of creating, keeping you in a place of being a victim of circumstances instead of being a co-creator of your reality. It's your choice. You get to decide. Now, the topic of manifesting and creating your reality is a lot of fun, and there's a lot of material to cover to really hone this skill. So I'm dedicating a series of videos to share with you secrets that even the documentary The Secret, as well as so many other sources, didn't share with you. Be sure to check out my series, Consciousness Creates, Unlocking Your Manifesting Potential, to discover how you can become more efficient and skilled at creating more of what you want to experience in your life while minimizing that which you do not. So as promised, I will now share with you some examples as far as what you can expect to experience as you develop a stronger partnership with the divine universe. So initially, you may experience synchronicities or even being mimicked. For example, right after you say, write, think, or read a word, you may hear that word or phrase echoed back to you. It can be echoed in a variety of ways. Maybe you see a billboard that is displaying the very thing you were just thinking about or saying, or a person on the TV or radio or a passerby echoes what you just thought or what you just said or what you just wrote down. For example, I was at a dinner party where the TV was on in the background, and I made a comment that something was only $30 when the TV mimicked me in an overly enthusiastic voice saying, only $30. The echoing happens quite regularly, and it's quite entertaining. Another silly example happened while a children's learning program was playing in the background when a friend of mine showed me a picture of a group of very drunk people dancing at a wedding reception. She wanted to point out someone in the picture who she had a crush on. And I didn't know how to politely put what I was witnessing in the photo, so I playfully asked her if she was referring to the one who was getting bumped on the rump. Just then, the TV program loudly announced, "Bump! B-U-M-P spells bump." I think we can all agree that the word bump isn't all that common, that there would be a high probability of that word being said right after I said it. There was a time when the interaction seemed like the universe was observing me and even poking a little fun at me. When I was in college in the UK and living with some roommates who had the TV on in the background while I was crafting something that was going to serve as a kind of practical joke, when I suddenly heard on the TV behind me, "What is Diana up to?" I stopped in my tracks and let out an amused giggle. But what made this even more peculiar was that I had put that project on pause for several days before picking it back up to work on it again. I had just started working on it again when the TV behind me loudly announced, "Diana is up to it again." And at that point, my jaw dropped and I had to think, now what are the odds of that happening precisely at those two times absolutely perfectly? And then the communication started to answer my questions. First, very simply, like when I was wondering what I'd make for dinner, then suddenly I'd hear someone say in a video I was listening to, spaghetti sounds nice. But then I started getting the answers to more complex questions in more complex ways. And this is an example of how your own intuition comes into play. One day I got to thinking about my grandpa who died when I was very young. I realized I didn't know his real name. So one evening before bed, I asked to receive his name during my nightly meditation. In my mind's eye, I suddenly saw a D. It disappeared and then another D appeared. Then I saw the word Dewey and it was quickly followed by another D. I thought to myself, D, D, Dewey, D. What is that? Like some old lyrics to a song from the 1940s? And then I thought, Dewey, isn't that the name of that cartoon duck from DuckTales? Huey, Dewey, Louie? Well, I went to bed thinking, how odd. I guess I'll just call my dad up tomorrow after work and ask him what Grandpa's name was. So the next morning while I was at work, I was working in a doctor's office and a patient walked up to me and said, "Hey, do you know that old film? There's a man singing and dancing. His name is Dewey." I looked at her, perhaps overly amazed and enthusiastic. "Did you just say Dewey?" I think my face must have put her off because she suddenly said, "Oh my God, why am I talking about this? I'm so sorry, I've got to go." She was very embarrassed and rushed out the door. I sat there stunned. So after work, I called my dad and asked, "Dad, what was Grandpa's name?" And he said, "Oh, his name was Buck." Buck? Oh, no kidding. He continued, but on his birth certificate, it was Dewey D. So some people called him DD, but Buck was the nickname he was most known as. I will leave you with one more example. So nearly 20 years ago, when I was first taking on my own clients, I would sometimes wonder if I was really, truly making a difference in people's lives. My clients always gave me wonderful feedback, but still, once in a while, I would question whether or not I was really making a worthwhile difference because the results aren't always immediately apparent. So I was discussing this with a dear friend who told me to never doubt. That was his personal motto, and suggested I drop the doubt because, as he said, if your clients feel you've helped them, then you've helped them. It's as simple as that. Now that was nice advice. I really appreciated it, and I tried taking that to heart. But then one day, while I was on the road driving to a new client, I felt that doubt creeping back in again, and I began a little rant in my head saying, "God, what I do is almost imperceptible to most people. During this session, I feel connected and dialed into you. I feel things shifting for my client, but I need you to tell me right now that I am doing your work and that I'm not just somehow convincing myself. I need you to give me a sign, like right now. I don't mean one of those chintzy signs that I need to read into. I want a boom in my face spelled out where I can't miss it." Now by that point, I was all worked up and I was hollering out loud in my car on the freeway when a PT Cruiser narrowly cut me off, and that snapped me out of my rant as I shrieked and took my foot off the gas pedal. I looked down at the driver's license plate, and to my astonishment, it read, "No doubt." I could go on, giving you more and more examples. Okay, so I'm going to leave it right here with that. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like. I really appreciate it. And subscribe if you want to hear more. Please forward these videos to anyone who might be interested in this material. Thank you for your support. You are loved and appreciated more than you know. I hope to see you next time.